Let's take a walk along Ammerman Street. Of course, this is not the most popular place for tourists in Kronstadt, but there are a lot of interesting things here. Let's go and show you. In Kronstadt, this place is called Gordokora. The mountain, as you can see, is loudly said, but still there is an elevation 4 meters above sea level. There is a very beautiful legend that once, a long time ago, there was a hill here, and 2 oak trees grew on it, and Peter the Great loved to relax here, and even built a gazebo for him. Pushkin reflected this in the tale of Tsar Sultan. Mother and son are now free. They see a hill in a wide field. The sea is blue all around. The oak is green over the hill. Today, unfortunately, no one knows the exact place where these oaks grew. This is the maternity hospital where new Kronstadts are born. There was no fence before, and some of the bravest dads climbed up the drain pipe, while the rest stood at the bottom and shouted,
Natasha, Lena.
And this is a nice balcony on Ammerman Street 13. How nice it would be to come out here in the morning, drink coffee slowly, and think about how good life is in essence. Perhaps the local inhabitants do so. Now there is a family and children's aid center here, and we took advantage of their hospitality. And once, about 100 years ago, it belonged to the Hatters. And here was the Severnaya Hotel, Fish Rose, and the brothers Samuel and Yakov Mordukovich kept a photo studio here and lived here themselves. Notice how the address is indicated in the photos, Bogoyavlinskaya Street. Now it is International Shlyapnikov House. The house number was not needed, and so it's clear to everyone, Shlyapnikov's house. And here is perhaps the most luxurious house on Ammerman Street. 15. The house of merchant Timothy Druzhinin was built in the early 19th century. Timothy Druzhinin was the city head of Kronstadt, and his grandson Alexander Alexandrovich opened a commercial bank in Kronstadt in 1872, which failed, and this caused a great panic among the Kronstadt residents. The first thing that attracts attention on the facade is these snakes. Surely you immediately decided that it was something medical, but not at all. It's a caduceus. It is also often called the rod of Mercury, the god of trade and enrichment. This is a magic wand with small wings, which is wrapped around 2 snakes. The caduceus is a sign of protection against cunning and deception, which often accompanied trade transactions. By the way, the first floor here has been occupied by a store since the immemorial Soviet times. There are also a lot of fruits here, a symbol of abundance. And there, look, mysterious initials. We still haven't figured out what they mean. If you know, tell us. And on the other side of the street, look at what a wonderful balcony, and what a lattice, just a work of art. And the faces. And here's the next house. There is a completely different Soviet decor, characteristic of Stalin's time. There was once a bathhouse on the site of these houses without architectural frills. Many Kronstadts still remember how they visited it. During the war, she worked this bathhouse, by the way, my mother told me, and during the war, they were taken here to the bathhouse.
But the fact is that I have lived in Kronstadt since the 59th year, and there was no hot water, even at that time. Naturally, everyone used the sauna. We lived on Karl Liebknecht, and, of course, every week we visited the bathhouse with the whole family. Dad and his son went to the same department. My mother and I went to the women's department. The bathhouse was located next to the bakery, where a stone 5-story house now stands. Here on this territory, the entire territory was occupied by a bathhouse. It was 1 story. There was a passage to the women's department through the courtyard. There were large apple trees in the yard behind a metal grid. That's exactly what I remember. Here, we have been visiting this bathhouse for 10 years. Well, what was interesting about this bath? Well, first of all, I remember the device with cologne because Dad lied after the bath. There were such special apparatuses hanging. A coin was dropped there, a button was pressed, and cologne was sprinkled from there. After my mother washed me, but I was still very young, they put me on a wooden sofa, wrapped me up. And that's what I remember too. I was always given a bottle of blueberry juice. It was also a pleasure to sit and wait for Mom while she washed. She went to the department. And here to drink this morse. Then this bath was still preserved because many houses were not with hot water. Well, in the end, of course, it was removed and built on that place. Here, a 5-story building.
This passage connects to bakery buildings. On the right is the apartment house of the merchant Sin Bryakov, and on the left there was once a moving house of the marine part. There were bailiffs, fire guards, and law enforcement officers in it, such serious institutions. But in 1928 year, a bakery was equipped in their place. It always smells so delicious vanilla here. It's impossible not to look through the window. The miracle machine makes the drying itself, sculpts them, bakes and packs them. People just make sure that there are no failures. You can buy drying in the nearest supermarket. And in this building there is a library. The facade is decorated with masquerades. Do you think they yawn or growl? Our opinion is divided. This beautiful house of Ammerman 29 is famous for the fact that one of its owners was at one time the strawman of St. Andrew's Cathedral, Kisilyev Ivan Pavlovich. He accompanied John of Kronstadt on trips. We got to the Metallist's Square. A very harsh name has been replaced by the former romantic one, Romanovsky Square. It was broken by the tricentenary of the House of Romanov. A fountain was built in the center of the garden. And in 1928 year, the square was renamed in the spirit of the times, the Garden of Metalworkers. There was a summer theater, a buffet, stalls, busts of leaders, and arches with visual agitation, reflecting industrial achievements, stood along the alleys. The course was strictly on tickets. From the memoirs, a contemporary was going to go to the Metallist Garden the other day. I took a ticket issued by the club with me, strict guidance, and with paragraph 2 of the rules, allowing 2 people to enter the garden for 1 ticket. A friend took with him. At the entrance, we were detained by the controller. It turns out that you can only enter the garden together with your wife. And if you go to the garden with your wife in the future, I would like to know if you really need an extract from the registry office or not. Worker Kronstadt for 1931st year, number 79, page 4. And in 1967th year, a monument to the Morzavad was erected in the park. The author of the monument is Kronstadt sculptor Anufriv. And in the next house on Ammerman 31 lived a great Russian physicist and electrical engineer, inventor of radio Alexander Stepanovich Popov. It's time to say, who is this mysterious Ammerman, after whom the street is named? Fyodor Kirillovich Ammerman, member of the Kronstadt Executive Committee of the Council of Workers, Soldiers and Sailors Deputies. He worked in the maritime office of the Kronstadt commercial port. He died during the Civil War near Aranbaum and was buried near Bolshaya Izhora station. So we have completed our walk. Write to us, call us if you know something that we haven't unearthed.
Чего не раскопали мы.